guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Monday, June 10th, and it is 9:07 p.m. Eastern Time. And what we're going to be doing tonight, something a little bit different. There's no Q post. There's lots of Q-related news, but I have been burning the candle at both ends, and that is why I didn't post last night. I was absolutely exhausted, and I was back up at 5 again researching because I'm finding so many very interesting rabbit trails to go down. So what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to concentrate on something that was in the news today because I've been digging on that. Also, I have another video that I would like to get to tonight, but I don't know if I will or not. And then there's the Q-related news. So really, I have 3 videos prepared, but I don't know if I'm going to get to all 3. Hopefully, I'll get to be able to do 2. That's my goal. And if I still have energy left, I will go on and do the 3rd one. All right, well, let's get started. Now, I'm going to be talking about something that was in the news today. I'm sure everybody heard about it. It was everywhere. And I got to get to the right one here. And that was the helicopter crash in Manhattan, New York City. And as soon as I heard about this, I don't know why, but I thought it was a little odd because it was a very, very foggy day in New York. And it just kind of made me wonder, what's going on here? What kind of a professional pilot would take off in fog that thick? It was as thick as pea soup out there. So really, I just started questioning. Well, let's go and look at the news article to begin with here. Helicopter crash on a high-rise building in New York City leaves at least 1 dead, officials say. Now, let me stop this before it starts. Well, sometimes they just start automatically, and that drives me crazy. All right. Well, New York City, at least 1 person was killed after a helicopter made a crash landing on the roof of a high-rise building. Not just any high-rise building, as we will see, in New York City on Monday, sparking a massive emergency response, officials said. The crash landing unfolded on the roof of 787 7th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan, and a fire was extinguished, the New York Police Department said. It happened at around 2 p.m. in a steady rain and clouds that obscured the roof of the tower, the AXA Equitable building located just north of Times Square. Now, I'm sure you've seen it on the news tonight. If you watched any sort of news or if you were on the internet today, I'm sure you have heard about this. And this is actually what it looked like on the roof of that building after the helicopter crash. There was only 1 person in the helicopter. He did perish, and that was the pilot, of course. And there are witnesses that saw the helicopter flying erratically and making strange moves, but they thought that it would make sense for them to ditch in the Hudson River. But no, they flew on and they ditched it on the top of a roof. Anyway, the New York Fire Department said the helicopter's pilot, later identified as Tim McCormack, died. It did not appear anyone else was on board. Sources told Fox News Rick Leventhal the helicopter experienced mechanical failure and had to make an emergency landing on the roof of the high-rise building. So let's come down and see if here's a little bit better picture of what occurred. You can see, I would assume that's the tail of the helicopter, but I'm not sure. There's not too much left. These look like some bent and twisted rotor blades. Excuse me. And anyway, in a news conference later Monday afternoon, New York City Police Commissioner James O'Neill confirmed the privately owned helicopter took off from the 34th Street heliport on the east side of Manhattan around 1:32 p.m. He said investigators believe the pilot was conducting executive travel and was headed to the home airport in Linden, New Jersey. O'Neill said the helicopter crashed on the roof 11 minutes after takeoff. 11, not 12, not 10, 11. Curious. We see that number a lot. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said there is no indication at this time that this was an act of terrorism. He added, there is no ongoing threat to New York City based on all information we have right now. De Blasio said that according to the preliminary information, it appeared no passengers were on board, adding that there were no other injuries that we know of at this point in time. He also said the cause of the incident has not yet been determined. New York Fire Department tweeted Monday, the fire department confirms a helicopter has crash landed onto the roof of 787 7th Avenue in Manhattan. The fire has been extinguished and members continue to operate in response to fuel leaking from the helicopter. There is currently one fatality reported. In the news conference, New York City Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro said fuel leaking from the helicopter has been mitigated. Odd word, but that's the word he used. Right now, the building is safe, Nigro said, adding that a complete evacuation took place. We went to the 51st floor and took stairs to the roof. We saw a debris field that was on fire and the fire contained to the roof. Unfortunately, there was one casualty. The New York Fire Department Lieutenant Adrian Walsh with Rescue 1 later told reporters his unit responded first to the scene. The Chief of Fire Operations, Thomas Richardson, also addressed reporters and spoke about the challenges firefighters faced. Whenever we have a fire on a high-rise office building, 54 stories is over 700 feet tall. We have challenges getting enough water pressure up to the higher levels of the building, but we have standard operating procedures in place, Richardson said. We have fire engines that connect to the standpipe system and supply pressure. We also use the manual fire pumps in the building to increase pressure. He added that firefighters arrived at the scene within 5 minutes and most of the fire was extinguished within half an hour. New York Fire Department operations have now concluded. We had 43 units on scene and our members operated bravely and with efficiency, Richardson said on Monday evening. A man who was in the building told Fox News' Shepard Smith he was at his desk when he felt something shake. It was clearly not something normal, Zach Escalante said, clearly something different. Other witnesses said it felt like a small earthquake. Smith reported, it felt like a small earthquake, Smith reported, adding Fox News confirmed there was no helipad on the roof of the building. Escalante said everyone in the high-rise was told to head out of the building and to not take any elevators as they were sent home for the day. No one trampled themselves, which was encouraging, and as a result, people got out very quickly, Escalante said. In a briefing with reporters about 20 minutes after the crash, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said the aircraft had to do an emergency crash landing. The governor added that there was no indication it was more than that, adding it was still early in the investigation. The incident close to both Rockefeller Center and Times Square sent rescue vehicles swarming to the building and immediately evoked memories of the September 11th attacks, though officials said there were no indications it was related to terrorism, and I don't believe it was. If you're a New Yorker, you have a level of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, right from 9/11, and I remember that morning all too well. So as soon as you hear an aircraft hit a building, I think my mind goes where every New Yorker's mind goes, Cuomo said. A woman who was in the building where the crash took place told Fox News she heard a loud boom and then the whole building shook. And I would imagine, since many people in that building had formerly been in the Trade Center when it was hit. So I could imagine that those that felt that really did start to stress, and it probably did bring back horrific memories. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, tweeted Monday an Augusta A109E helicopter crashed on the roof of 787 7th Avenue in New York at around 1:45 p.m. Preliminary information is that only the pilot was aboard. FAA air traffic controllers did not handle the flight, which is odd in itself. The NTSB will be in charge of the investigation and will determine probable cause of the accident. Now, an Augusta A109E, I'm just giving this to you as a background. It's not that I need to really read all this, but I want to give you the particulars of this because I'm going somewhere. An Augusta A109E helicopter is a twin-engine, high-speed, single-pilot helicopter configured for 7 passengers and is reportedly the fastest helicopter in its class. Videos posted by onlookers showed emergency vehicles in the street, but no obvious damage to the skyscraper. A woman told Fox News she didn't hear the crash, but people in her building were also told to leave. I guess the people on the other side felt something. A woman who was in the building across the street told Fox News, adding that she and employees were told they had to evacuate and get out. President Trump, you wouldn't have to tell me twice. If I felt something shake in a building and a big boom, yeah, I'd be out. President Trump said that he had been briefed on the crash, tweeting, "Phenomenal job by our great first responders who are currently on scene." And I would reiterate that it seems to me that the New York Fire Department is the finest. I think that they respond quickly and they are very, very skilled at doing their jobs, and it probably saved further damage. Anyway, thank you for all you do 24/7, 365. The Trump administration stands ready should you need anything at all, the president said. While meeting with Indianapolis 500 champions at the White House Monday afternoon, President Trump addressed reporters, calling the incident in New York City a big tragedy. "A very sad event," Trump said. "The pilot was killed. As you know, we will have a full report on that soon, but the federal people are working with the city and state people, and they will have a full report very soon." New York's Office of Emergency Management said the crash and associated emergency response was causing road closures and a heavy presence of emergency personnel. Numerous roads were also closed, snarling traffic in the busy section of the city. The 54-story building is known as the AXA Equitable Building, which opened in 1986. It is a 752-foot tall skyscraper outfitted with such amenities as a fitness club and auditorium. New York City has a history of both minor and major helicopter wrecks and crash landings. Last month, a helicopter crash landed in the Hudson River near a busy Manhattan heliport. The pilot escaped mostly unscathed. 5 people died after a sightseeing helicopter crashed into the East River last year. 3 people died in another crash into the same river in 2011. 9 people died in a collision between a sightseeing helicopter and a small plane in 2009, not far from the scene of Monday's mishap. So you see that they are going a little bit overboard here to make sure that we know that this is normal routine. It happens every now and then. It happens. So they're reiterating that to us. Why? Well, let's go on here. That is it for that. And I am going to, now you'll have to stay with me here because let me close some of this down because I have been researching stuff like there's no tomorrow. And there we go. Let's close that down and get to this. Now, I found this from a person called Ascension Guide. I might not agree with their ideology, but they are certainly a very good researcher. Very, very good researcher. And it appears as if they are a patriot as well, which is always good. And this is what this person had to say. City Mayor Bill de Blasio pointed out that aircraft are not allowed in the area where the helicopter crashed without approval from the LaGuardia Airport Tower. That wasn't obtained. So the helicopter was flying in very heavy fog, rain, and the visibility was slim to none. You can tell that by even the pictures that are taken, all of the fire engines and so forth, which really did block the street. I mean, there was a ton of them. And who knows? They probably went overboard on the response because perhaps they were fearing a 9/11 type incident. I don't know. But they did not receive approval to be flying in that area. Wendy Slater, 46, was walking her pit bull Ewing on the East River near 20th Street when she heard the sound of a low-flying helicopter. It was flying really low, going up and diving down, flying sideways, she said. I just thought he was going to crash right there in the river, but then he went north. Interesting. So this is the site of the helicopter crash. I know that this is small. Let me make this a little bit Bigger for you people on your tiny phones and tablets. I know, I try to think of you when I remember. So this is the location of the crash. And you can see that I think this is the river, so it's quite a ways away. So, and we're going to go to the next one. The police commissioner, James P. O'Neill, said the helicopter had taken off from the heliport on the East River at 34th Street at 1:32, 11 minutes before it slammed onto the roof. And she was replying to this person, Pamela Falk, who said, New York Times, James Barron, the helicopter's base was Linden, New Jersey. Paul Dudley, airport manager, identified the pilot as Tim McCormack, who worked for the helicopter's owner. Danielle Bodini, who he said commuted to the city from upstate New York. So, okay. So this was a pilot that was hired to work for a specific person. This was a corporate helicopter. It was owned by Danielle Bodini. This pilot worked for her. I would imagine that's a her. And so there you go. Took off from the helicopter base, which was Linden, New Jersey. And the pilot is Tim McCormack. So, and it crashed 11 minutes later onto the roof in Manhattan. Okay. If you're a pilot, again, this is from Ascension Guide. I do want to give kudos where kudos are due, but and obviously she has been looking into this a great deal. If you're a pilot and your helicopter is struggling, why not put it down in the river and avoid damage and death? Why not attempt landing on the large heliports on the river? That's a good question. That's a very good question. Instead, the helicopter navigates 20 plus blocks north of the nearest heliport and 5 blocks inland. If you knew your helicopter was in trouble, you don't have a lot of visibility. It's right. You would put it down on the nearest helipad, right? Wouldn't anybody do that? And if they thought they were going to crash, why would you go inland further where you have more of a possibility of crashing and harming additional people? I think most pilots are trained to, if you know the plane's going to go down and you know you're going to die, you try to put it down in a place where you're going to avoid additional deaths. I would assume that's what I would do. I think that probably most pilots would do that. They wouldn't want to harm innocent people. So why would you take it inland? Why wouldn't you just land it in the river, on the river, or on the helipads, which were right there? Don't know. All right, let's go on. This from the FAA. Updated FAA statement on the helicopter crash in New York City. Follow us here for updates. Breaking news. An Augusta A109E helicopter crashed on the roof of 787 7th Avenue in New York at around 1:45 p.m. today. Preliminary information is that only the pilot was aboard. FAA air traffic controllers did not handle the flight. The NTSB will be in charge of the investigation and will determine probable cause of the accident. We will release the aircraft registration after New York City officials release the pilot's name. Now, I did just go out to the FAA to see if there was anything additional that had been posted, and there was not. So let's go on. Now, this from Stephen Sim, 64, privately owned executive helicopter who didn't bother getting FAA approval? Big surprise. Okay, fess up. Which Wall Street a-hole demanded that the pilot fly? Well, we don't know. And this is a picture. It says the type of helicopter, this by Anthony. This is a picture of the exact, this isn't the picture of the helicopter. It is a picture of the type of helicopter. So you can get a picture in your mind of what it looked like before the crash. It certainly doesn't look like that now. All right, and let's come down here. All right. Now, guess who else is in that building? Well, yeah, Sydney Austin, LLP. Where have we heard that before? Huh. Yeah, Q. That's where we've heard it before. So let's keep going. I'm going somewhere. And this by Ascension Guide. Just this weekend, FBI released new documents referencing Hillary Rodham Clinton and Sidney Blumenthal. Sidney was represented by Sidley Austin, LLP. And they also represented him in regards to Benghazi. Yes. Okay, let's go on here. Track with me here. It feels a little bit disjointed, but I'm trying to bring it together for you. Okay, Sidley Austin, LLP, also has ties to Hillary Rodham Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama, located at 787 7th Avenue, New York City. Barack Hussein Obama plus Mishel allegedly met at Sidley Austin's Chicago offices. Mishel was a law clerk there, I believe, I think she was a law clerk, if I'm not mistaken. That was her position there, and she met Barack Hussein Obama there. That's what they say, anyway. Now, so this is where it is located in New York City, and Sidley Austin, LLP, 787 7th Avenue. So you can see, not making any of this up, it's their offices are in that building. All right, and now, all right, now let's look at this. Sidley Austin represents Clinton Confidante in Benghazi probe. Sidney Blumenthal, a longtime Clinton family friend, on Tuesday sat for a closed-door deposition in the House over his communications with former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton around the time of the 2012 attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya. James Cole, a former Deputy Attorney General under Eric Holder, Jr., who is now a partner in Sidney Austin's Washington office, represents Blumenthal. I'm sure it's all coincidental. Well, let's read about Sidley Austin during the September 11th attacks, shall we? Well, sure we shall. Let's dig in. The terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001 personally affected the employees of Sidley Austin. Prior to the merger creating Sidley Austin Brown & Wood, which took place just 4 months before the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks, the head office of Brown & Wood was in the World Trade Center, while Sidley and Austin, New York office was located in the towers on 3rd Avenue. Out of 600 employees who worked in the World Trade Center at the time of the attacks, one perished, a switchboard operator, Rosemary Smith. Sidley Austin reopened its New York office on Monday, September 17th, in the old Sidley and Austin office on 3rd Avenue, which it had planned on closing on September 16th. Instead, it leased 4 additional floors in that location in a deal completed less than 3 hours after the collapse of the World Trade Center. Sidley Austin later opened its permanent new office in the Equitable Center on the 7th Avenue in July 2002. Now, it's also been stated that the reason that one person perished, a switchboard operator, in these attacks of September 11th is because they received phone calls telling them not to go to work. Curiouser and curiouser. Okay. And this from Pity Party of One, just a little tidbit. Barack Hussein Obama and Hillary Rodham Clinton's law firm is in that building. Nothing to see here, and we've already said that, but it bears repeating. Okay, now this, again, back to Ascension Guide. Why did Como reference 9/11 regarding this helicopter crash? 1 out of 600 Sidley Austin employees died in the World Trade Center. Lucky coincidence? The firm was known as Sidley Austin, Brown and Wood until the name was rebranded as Sidley Austin in 2006. Yeah, boy, they were really lucky. Only one person of theirs perished. All right. Sidley Austin LLP also has ties to Hillary Rodham Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama, located at 787 7th Avenue, New York City. Barack Hussein Obama and Mishel allegedly met at Sidley Austin, Chicago offices. I know I am repeating myself somewhat. Okay, and let's look at this. But from Ascension Guide, 787 7th Avenue in New York City is headquarters to AXA Financial, a subsidiary of French insurance and banking company AXA. Other large tenants include PNP, Paribas, UBS, and Citigroup. And Ascension Guide also says former CEO and chairman of the board of AXA, Henry Delacroix, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, de Castries, was chairman at the 2019 Bilderberg meetings. I'm sure it's all just a coincidence. So it must be a coincidence, don't you think? As per Q, there are no coincidences. Now, let's see what Q has to say. Well, this is November 30th, 2017. And he says, Sidley Austin, happy hunting, Q. Must be something there. Or Q wouldn't tell us to hunt, would he? Now, let's look at this. No, really, let's. All right, this from Able Danger. Now, some of you I know have, whenever I've brought up Able Danger, they've told me to be careful. I do believe that Able Danger does have very good intel, and I am convinced of that. Not for no reason. I mean, I have found them to be accurate. Now, whether they're always accurate, I don't know, but they're pretty accurate. They have operatives all over, and they're working on the side of patriots. Okay, so let's look at this. Sidley Austin, now this is from 2012, so this is quite a while ago. Sidley Austin Law Firm and ADT is the alarm company. You know, you get them to monitor your house. Sidley Austin Law Firm and ADT, time-lapse key modus operandi, manipulated surveillance cameras, BTK, bind, torture, kill, Judge Alban Guerin. Let's get into this a little bit, because I know you're probably going, huh? Plum City, February 28th, 2012, the Able Danger White House Group announced today it has linked the Sidley Austin law firm and its erstwhile client, ADT, to a modus operandi involving the use of time-lapse keys to manipulate surveillance cameras during the BTK murders of former tax judge Alban Guerin, his wife, and a neighbor. Now, we've all heard of the BTK killer, bind, torture, kill. This judge, this tax judge, Alban Guerin, was a victim of the BTK killer, as was his wife and a neighbor. Well, they had ADT monitoring their property. Why couldn't I think of that? I don't know. Anyway, they had the monitoring, and apparently ADT had, involving the use of some time-lapse keys, they could manipulate the surveillance cameras to be off at a certain time, or to fast forward so that the person was not seen entering and leaving the premise. Isn't that interesting? That would be kind of handy if you wanted to commit murder, don't you think? Able Danger spokesperson Field McConnell claims that Sidley Austin lawyers extorted the merger of 57 District Telegraph delivery companies into American District Telegraph in 1874 and subsequently perfected the time-lapse MO where ADT camera operators misrecording images which would otherwise have identified suspects at BTK crime scenes associated with the murders of Jean-Benet Ramsey and Judge Guerin. Interesting. Now, there's a lot more to this, and, you know, we would be here all night and probably all day tomorrow if I did a deeper dive into all this stuff. They have Prequel 1, Sidney Austin Law Firm, time-lapse cryptography keys, concealed communications, Canadian Pig Farm Family Trust, 150 years of practice exposed. Prequel 2, procurement of a federal bridge certification authority, Mary Elizabeth Harriman, a homicidal pedophile husband, contract killing of judge. So there's a lot here. There's a lot more to get to. Motive to kill tax judge. He wanted to blow whistle on Sidley, KPMG tax fraud in Canada. Bronfman Trust. Where have we heard that before? Remember, this is 2012. Don't tell me that they're not accurate, that Able Danger is not accurate, because they are. Bronfman Trust. Yeah, the Bronfman sisters, the Seagram heiress that funded NXIVM. Yeah. Oh, this just gets deeper and deeper, doesn't it? Sidley, ADT's Video Guard pay-per-view time-lapse key, Murdoch's News International. Now, again, I would have to come back and do a much deeper dive to get to all this, because it was one of those rabbit holes that I fell into, and then I thought, you know, I better stop or I'm not going to get to record tonight. And because I didn't record last night, I wanted to be sure to get you some information and something that you guys could chew on. So, you know, I didn't have endless time to follow every rabbit trail, but my gosh, there's a lot here. This could keep somebody busy for a very, very long time investigating. A Chief Justice of the Tax Court of Canada, Alban Guerin, served as a judge from 1988 to 2004. On June 30th, 2007, the bodies of Guerin, his wife Ramon, and his neighbor Marie-Claire Beniscos was found inside the Guerin's 10th floor condominium near the Rideau River. Investigators believe that the victims were murdered on the morning of the day before. The three people had been bound, gagged, and beaten. In the course of their investigation, police found that images from surveillance cameras for the luxury condominium complex were not being recorded. Sidley, ADT time-lapse camera. On October 31st, Ottawa police released a sketch of a man wanted for questioning in connection with the murders. The man had been seen in a building elevator on the morning of the day before the bodies were found. 1 year later, police featured the murders on a Crime Stoppers television segment and offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. As of June 2011, the case remains open and police have received no recent leads. They have now. Dennis Lynn Rader, born March 9th, 1945, is an American serial killer who murdered 10 people in Sedgwick County in and around Wichita, Kansas between 1974 and 1991. He was known as the BTK Killer or BTK Strangler. BTK stands for Bind, Torture, Kill, which was his famous signature. He sent letters describing the details of the killings to police and to local news outlets during the period of time in which the murders took place. After a long hiatus in the 1990s through early 2000s, Radar resumed sending letters in 2004, leading to his 2005 arrest and subsequent conviction. He is serving 10 consecutive life sentences at El Dorado Correctional Facility with an early possible release date of February 26, 2180. Radar worked as an assembler for a camping gear firm, and then from 1974 until 1988, he worked at a Wichita-based office of ADT Security Services, a home security company. He installed alarms as a part of his job. ADT Security Services, originally American District Telegraph, now also known as simply ADT, is a version of Tyco International and a worldwide supplier of electronic security systems, fire alarm systems, communication systems, and integrated building management systems. There were many small telegraph delivery companies in the United States in the 19th century. In 1874, 57 district telegraph delivery companies affiliated and became American District Telegraph. With the increase in telephone usage in the late 19th century, ADT's messenger business slowly declined in popularity. ADT tried branching out and developing their signaling business while still maintaining their telegraph business as a primary income source. ADT incorporated into Western Union in 1901. ADT separated its messenger business from its main signaling business at this time. In 1909, Western Union and ADT came under the control of AT&T. ADT began to expand into new areas such as fire alarms and burglar alarms between 1910 and 1930. But was kept separate from AT&T Holmes alarm business. ADT became a publicly owned company in the 1960s. In 1977, the UK's Lord Ashcroft had bought underperforming outdoor equipment maker Hawley Goodall and transformed it through acquisition into a business services group registered in Bermuda. In the early part of 1987, Hawley bought the Indianapolis-based Crime Control, Inc., fourth largest company in the U.S. security market, for $50 million. Later, in the different countries with over 62,000 employees, ADT had gross revenue of $8 billion in 2008. ADT has branches covering the United States, Canada, and Latin America, as well as 21 countries in Europe. ADT UK and Ireland has 23 branches. Okay, I'm going to skip forward because that gives us a little bit of background, but we don't need the nitty-gritty. So how stupid do Sidley Austin lawyers think we are? Look at the date. Time lapse. 3 time-lapse Sidley lawyers. When will the giant wake up? I'm not exactly sure what they're saying here, to tell you the truth. Please visit links below and support a presidential field election. Okay, so, all right. So we've looked at that, and we're going to go back now, and we're going to look at the next. Let's look at this. Let me take a drink. I'm quite certain nobody wants to listen to me cough. Okay, this was posted on 6/12/2012. To those outside legal circles, and this was posted on Free Republic, to those outside legal circles, Sidley Austin is probably best known as the Chicago law firm where Barack Obama and Michelle Obama met. The future president was an intern in 1989. The future first lady was an associate. Barack Obama turned down a job offer at the end of his internship. Michelle Obama left the firm, and the two married in 1992. Decades later, something, W-O, decades later, I don't know. Sidley Austin is faring well under the Obama administration. Well, I'm sure it is, because as it turns out, it's pretty much the law firm for the New World Order. Current and former attorneys at the firm receiving presidential appointments include Virginia A. Seitz. She was a partner at Sidley Austin before being named Assistant Attorney General in 2011. Gary Scott Feinerman, former Solicitor General of Illinois and clerk to Supreme Court Justice Anthony M. Kennedy. Feinerman is now a federal judge with the District Court of the Northern District of Illinois. David B. Barlow, a partner at the firm from 2006 to 2010. Barlow is now U.S. Attorney for the Utah District. Now remember, this is back in 2012, this was written. John G. Levi, a current partner and bundler for the Obama 2008 and 2012 presidential campaigns. Levi chairs the Legal Services Corporation, a governmental corporation that funds legal aid for the poor. Christopher P. Liu, after working as a litigation associate at Sidley Austin, Liu moved to government. He was legislative director to then Senator Barack Obama and is now President's Cabinet Secretary. Catherine B. Thompson, who is married to Liu, worked for 19 years at Sidley Austin. She became counselor to Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood in 2009 and was reported chief counsel of the Federal Aviation Administration in 2012. Catherine B. Thompson, who is married to Liu, worked for 19 years. Okay, I'm sorry, I just read that. Michael Stromanis, like Liu, worked with Obama before 2009. He was chief counsel and deputy chief of staff during Obama's stint in the Senate. He previously practiced complex litigation and employment law at Sidley Austin. Newton Minow, senior counsel at the law firm and chairman of the Federal Communications Commission during the Kennedy administration, has multiple connections to the White House. Minow met Barack Obama through his daughter Martha, who was Obama's professor. She urged her father to hire the young law student. As president, Obama appointed Martha Minow, now dean of Harvard Law School, to the Legal Services Corporation. He named another Minow daughter, Mary, to the National Museum Library Services Board. Interesting. Yeah. Sidley Austin has been embraced by Washington in more ways than federal appointments. The firm has landed federal contracts totaling $12 million since 2009. In the prior 4 years, during the George W. Bush administration, the firm's federal contracts totaled $1.4 million, according to data on usaspending.gov. Sidley Austin also lobbies for clients with big stakes in Washington, including the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, Bayer Healthcare, and Grifols, a global healthcare company. In 2011, the firm had 21 registered lobbyists in the Capitol and pulled in nearly $3 million in lobby fees. Not surprisingly, political contributions from people at Sidley Austin lean toward the Obama camp. No kidding. Elections data analyzed by the Center for Responsive Politics show that Sidley Austin employees had given $243,486 to Obama's re-election bid through late April. Employees gave less than $23,000 to Mitt Romney's election. Data analyzed by the Center for Responsive Politics shows that Sidley Austin employees had given, employees gave less than $23,000 to Mitt Romney's campaign. Okay, sorry. Levi isn't the only Obama bundler at the firm. Partner Thomas Cole raised money for the 2008 campaign. Nevertheless, Sidley Austin is not all Obama all the time law firm. Partner Charles Douglas raised funds for John McCain in 2008. This time around, he has contributed to both Romney and Tim Pawlenty. So, it's interesting. I'm just seeing if there's anything else of notice here. Just seems like there's a lot of connections. Okay, let's go back here and go on. And this just shows that it is indeed a fact. Inside the marriage of Barack and Michelle Obama, who met at work and kissed outside an ice cream store on their first date. Barack Obama first met his future wife, Mishel, at work in 1989. Former first couple went on a date that same year. Mishel was Obama's mentor at the law firm Sidley Austin, LLP, and was therefore reluctant to go out with him. According to David Mendel's Obama from Promise to Power, the future First Lady also thought Obama sounded too good to be true at first. She was also unimpressed when he showed up to the date in a bad sports jacket with a cigarette dangling from his mouth. I thought, oh, here you go. Here's this good-looking, smooth-talking guy. I've been down this road before, she told Mendel, according to Washington Post. But ultimately, Barack won her over. So, blah, blah, blah. brought that up to show you that indeed they did meet at Sidley Austin in Chicago. All right, well, let's go on. One, two, three, question mark. This by Alame Fuentes. Pardon me for the language here, but she as well is a good researcher, and I have actually looked at her stuff before. She's a good one to follow. Okay, Sidley Austin firm had office in the World Trade Center. They occupied floors 54 to 59. Some 600 people working at those particular offices miraculously didn't turn up for work on 9/11, and no lives were lost from that particular firm. Did they have a time machine? Well, one person did lose their life, but it was a switchboard operator, which they probably thought was expendable. Sad, but probably true. What's even more impressive is that only weeks before the attacks, Sidley Austin took an insurance policy that covered everything from art to terrorist attacks. How convenient. So when the towers went down, they made millions, if not billions, from the insurance. Isn't that what happened with Larry Silverstein? He took out an insurance and policy, wasn't it double indemnity? And, it was an insurance for terrorist attacks. And then, of course, right after, there was, the buildings were struck. And from what I understand as well, not only were they iconic and slated to come down by the New World Order, but they were also full of asbestos, and they could not have been cleaned up. So when those buildings went down, that asbestos was literally vaporized and went out. And that is probably why so many of the first responders have died. All right, now let's go on. So how is Sidley Austin connected to CMEX? Where have we heard about CMEX before? Yeah. Trafficking? Child trafficking? First of all, there is this dude, Scott Perel, a partner of the firm that oversees CMEX property portfolio. Well. Just gets curiouser and curiouser, doesn't it? Now, I found this from Able Danger. The Able Danger White House group announced today, now this is back a number of years ago when this was written. The Able Danger White House group announced today it has linked Sidley Austin lawyers to a pedophile entrapment center at Hull House and then associated use of SOS Children's Villages to extort Rockefeller family trusts. Able Danger spokesperson Field McConnell claims that Sidley Austin hired Michelle Obama and Bernadine Dohrn through Hull House to film Rockefeller trustees at S period, 0 period, S period. I'm trying to avoid the censors here. Corn niblet brothels, going back to earlier codes. Corn niblet brothels, and extort trust investment in a leveraged lease allegedly set up by city and guilds livery companies for the Carbon Disclosure Project to be triggered with a David and Nelson demolition of the Twin Towers in New York on 9/11. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up, people. And Alame Fuentes says, and secondly, and here is the important part, Sidley Austin's lawyers have been linked to Corn Niblet ring. Yeah, as says Able Danger as well. And S period, O period, S period, Niblet villages. Where did I hear that name before? Isn't CMEX providing super good care to Indonesian corn niblets via S period, O period, S period Niblet villages in Indonesia. Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear now that Sidley Austin has their fingers in a lot of different pies, and not in a good way. And they have links to Obama's, to Hillary Rodham Clinton, and they seem to be the go-to for the New World Order guys, just saying, or the deep cabal. So that is all I have. But what I am saying is, in this is, what I wanted to not only allude to, but possibly suggest this was no accident. Now, what was it? Well, I have a theory, but it's only a theory, and it's my opinion and nothing more. But after looking at this, I think I'm as entitled to have an opinion as anybody else. My opinion is perhaps it was a distraction, so that, because the building was evacuated, see, maybe there was something that somebody needed to get to. You know, somebody that might be incriminated by something held in that law office. So perhaps this was all a distraction. Now, on whose side? I don't know. I have a hard time believing that the White Hats would take a pilot's life to provide a distraction. I really do. So that leaves us with the alternative. It was the deep state. And why would the deep state want to distract when we already had something going on in Washington, which they wanted everybody to see? Well, possibly because there's a whole lot of people disappearing around the Clintons. A lot of people turning up dead. And somehow they all seem to connect to the Clintons. Now, maybe there's something at that law firm that could incriminate them. Definitely incriminate them. I don't know. But there's a reason that this happened. Because if you're a pilot, a trained pilot, wouldn't you first of all ask for permission to go where there's no flights supposed to go? Wouldn't you file a flight plan with the FAA? If you were faltering already, wouldn't you land the plane, the helicopter, at the closest helipad? Wouldn't you, if you couldn't make it to the closest helipad, wouldn't you ditch it in the water to avoid the unnecessary loss of life? Wouldn't you do that? I would. I think just about any sane person would. What I wouldn't do if I was flying a craft and knew that I was in trouble, I would not go 5 blocks inland and land on the roof of a building. That's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. Number one, if you miss the roof of a building, and the fog was very, very heavy, so could have very easily been missed. If you missed that roof and you fell to the street, you could have killed any number of people. So, yeah, doesn't make sense. Wanted to do a deep dive on this today because I think it's important. So that's all I have to say about this, and I'm going to be back for another video. So I'm going to go upload this and I will be back. So look for another video tonight from me. And thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for supporting me, for praying for me, encouraging me. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. It helps so much, more than you know. And to those of you that buy me the odd coffee, I really appreciate it. And you might think, oh, it's only $3. What does that do? It helps a lot. It helps compensate me for my time, and it helps me keep producing these and doing these deep dives, because then I can concentrate on this aside from other freelance projects. So there we go. That's it for now. I'm going to bid you adieu, and I will be back. So thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great night. Stay safe, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth, because deception bites.